This podcast is not sponsored or supported by any business or organization. The views reflected on these podcast episodes are my own. Be aware I am not a medical doctor, travel agent, or any other kind of expert. But I hope you still enjoy. Hey friends, welcome to the Gluten-Free Advocate, a Substack and podcast that helps me process my health journey and my determination to pretend that those health conditions don't exist at all. If you're looking for tips, tricks, and learnings for traveling the world with celiac disease and type 1.5 diabetes, you have come to the right place. Now, let's get started.
You guys, I loved getting to have Lorin on the podcast. In the show notes, if you have not listened to our first episode together, which was a couple years ago, I highly recommend that you give it a listen. You can pause right here, go listen to that, then come back. On this episode of the Gluten-Free Advocate, we actually are talking more about our type 1 diabetes diagnosis journeys. It's really interesting, informative, and helpful episode if you're battling type 1 and celiac disease. Or even just know how to ask your doctors the right questions, because I learned a lot of things, as I always do, from Lorin on this episode. We also talk about some fun stuff. Lorin has several upcoming events, including a food truck event and a Costa Rica trip, that are really meaningful to the celiac community. Make sure you listen all the way to the end because Lorin is giving out her discount code for gluten-free Grub merch. I'm going to stop talking now and let you get to this amazing conversation. Hi, Lorin. Welcome back. I'm so happy to see your face back on
Thank
the
you for
podcast.
having me. Thank you. I feel special to be a return guest.
Yes. Well, I know I have said this to you privately, and now I'm going to do it publicly, and it's going to transition to the first question. So I was listening to our other episode that we did together,
Okay.
and at the time that it came out, I had just been told I had type 2 diabetes,
Right.
and it has since transitioned to now I have type 1. I have the latent type 1 diabetes.
Yes. Okay.
And I just want to say to you, face to face, eyeball to eyeball, of you were instrumental in that journey of I usually take it on the chin like a champ when I get diagnosed with medical stuff. Like I've been falsely diagnosed with cancer a few times and like
Oh
been
my
all
gosh.
good. But for whatever reason, being told I had type 2 rattled me in a way that I was surprised by. And you like were so great and walked me through it, and you'd only spoken to me once at that point and were probably the greatest friend ever. And then I knew in my gut something was off. I remember talking to you about it where I'm
Yeah,
like, this
I
doesn't
remember
feel
that.
right. And you, at some point around there, shared your type 1 diagnosis story on social media. You shared it again. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm experiencing. And so I took your story and I showed my doctor your story and I said, test me because this is what I'm experiencing. And you are the reason of why I got my proper diagnosis. So
Aw.
thank you.
That makes me happy because you put your content out online and you're like, I hope that this reaches the people that it needs to help.
Yeah.
And I was really hesitant and scared to share my type 1 diagnosis online because I feel like I'm very unique type 1 diabetic,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about, I'm sure. And so I was really hesitant to share. So I'm happy to hear that my story helped you in your journey of getting like your diabetes under control because it is a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. And I also love as you continue posting about it, because I try not to bother you at all, but I
Please
feel
bother
like
me. Please bother me. I do not mind at all.
but it feels like I'm able to commiserate with someone because
Yeah.
you're right. Like I feel like more and more there's now more type 1 and celiac
Yeah.
disease folks out there, but I feel like you're the pioneer of like sharing it all. So
Oh,
it's
thank
thank you.
you. That's so nice of you. I'm really happy to know that it spoke to you and helped you because it took me a long time to like figure out like something is not right. I am
Yeah.
not normal. This is not normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't know what normal was either. So I'm
Right.
just like trying to figure it all out. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. Oh my God, that's so true. So I'm curious because if anybody wants to hear your celiac diagnosis story, they can hear that in the other episodes. So we don't need to rehash that. But would you feel okay sharing as much as you're comfortable with your
Yeah.
type 1 diagnosis story?
Yeah, totally. Um, well, for starters, I didn't have any like type 1 symptoms. Um, leading up to this diagnosis that I was aware of, but I my last pregnancy, I had gestational diabetes. So that
Okay.
kind of brought diabetes to my like the forefront of my mind and like what that looked like and like controlling blood sugars. Um, but that was different management than type 1 management. So, when my baby was a year and a half old, so I had gone through the gestational diabetes, had a baby, got back to like kind of, quote unquote normal postpartum. It was a year and a half in, and I got vaccinated to leave the country, and I was really hesitant. I was really worried to get vaccinated because I was already immunocompromised and there wasn't a
Mm.
lot of research, you know, in 2021 when the vaccine came out. And I just was like, I feel really nervous to get the vaccine, just because there's not enough research about people who already have autoimmune conditions. But my husband had booked a trip for us and surprised me for my birthday for a trip to Italy. And in order to leave the country at that time, I had to get vaccinated. So I was like, okay. I ended up getting vaccinated and went on my trip to Italy. And then while I was on my trip to Italy, I developed a very severe yeast infection.
Mm.
Um, and in Italy, I'm walking like you're walking tens of thousands of steps every day. You're eating everything that the world offers you as in the gluten-free world, right? Like I'm eating gelato
Mm.
every day. I'm eating pizza. I'm eating croissants. I'm eating all this amazing gluten-free food in Italy. But I'm walking like crazy. But I'm also so exhausted. I'm so
Mm.
tired on this trip. But in my head, I'm like, I like I'm jet lagged. I'm tired.
Right.
I'm traveling. I'm walking a million miles a day. Anyway, I go to a pharmacy and I ask them for something for the yeast infection because it is uncomfortable. I'm so uncomfortable from this yeast
Right.
infection. My pH balance was all off. Again, no clues or any ideas that it's
Right.
the diabetes had already started.
Right.
So here I am eating crazy amounts of carbs every
Yeah.
single day. So I get home from this trip from Italy. This was about mm, I would say like 8 or 9 weeks post my vaccine. So I get home from my trip and my symptoms are not going away. I go to the doctor and I said I have this crazy yeast infection. They do a blood test, they do a urine test. One, I think that they should have caught the type 1 then, but they didn't
Mm.
test my ketones.
Mm.
So I could have caught it like 2 weeks earlier. And then I'm just like dealing with crazy symptoms. I'm sleeping like crazy. I'm so exhausted. I'm
Mm.
sleeping 12 hours a night, needing to take a nap in the middle of the day. I'm drinking so much water. I am like, I
Yep.
can't quench my thirst. I'm so thirsty.
Yep.
Um, I'm like chugging orange juice, which that's the worst thing you can do when you're like have diabetes. I'm chugging orange juice. I'm
Yeah.
drinking Coke. I'm drinking all this water and I can't quench my thirst. The yeast infection isn't going away.
Mm.
Um, Anyway, I just one night I'm drinking 3 full large cups of water before I go to bed, and I'm like that was the first time that even a red flag went off in my mind that it was
Mm.
diabetes. It was the water
Okay.
because my brother has type 1.
Yeah.
So, but he was also diagnosed in adulthood. So this is like
Oh.
diabetes wasn't something that like we had knew in childhood that my parents were testing us, nothing. We
Right.
we were not aware. So I called my brother and I said, "Hey, here are all my symptoms." And he said, "Lauren, you need to go to the emergency room right now." And I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm sure I'm fine." And he's like, "No, I'm sorry. Like you please go to the hospital right now." And that's when I kind of got scared and I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I guess all these symptoms are lining up with type 1 diabetes." Um and I had somebody in my neighborhood whose daughter had type 1. So she came over. We checked my finger, my blood sugar on my finger, and the meter just read high. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? And she's like, it
Wow.
just means it's too high that this meter can't read it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I go to the urgent care and they test my urine there and they come in and they're like, your blood sugar is at like 660. You like need to go to the emergency room. And I knew immediately when they came in, they said, yeah, like this, like we can diagnose you here, but you need to go to the emergency room. And I sat in that urgent care room by myself and I sobbed because
Mm-hmm.
I knew what that meant. A type 1
Mm-hmm.
diabetes diagnosis meant. And having lived with celiac disease for um, like 6.5 years at that point, I just was like, I already am managing so much.
Yeah.
It's already a lot. Like, I don't have the capacity to add something else that is really, really hard. Like
Yeah.
at that point, celiac disease was like, I got this under control. I've been doing it for
Right.
6 years. I feel confident in living with celiac disease, but I'm like, I knew what it meant because I had a brother with type 1. And since type 1 kind of came into my life, I have learned that I have 7 first cousins with type 1. So I
Wow.
have like 3 of us were adults diagnosed in adulthood, and
Wow.
then I guess the other 4 are actually my cousin's kids. So that would be like first cousin
Okay.
once removed.
Right.
So there's this generation of us that all have this gene for type 1 diabetes. And I don't know, like obviously there's no facts or no studies, no evidence that the vaccine triggered that because I had the gene for it,
Mm-hmm.
but COVID could have triggered it. I
Right.
never had gotten COVID, but like I was like hesitant to get the vaccine, but I'm like I look back and I think about it and I'm like even if I hadn't gotten the vaccine, like I could have gotten a sickness, I could have gotten COVID,
Right.
I could have gotten the flu, I could have anything could have triggered this autoimmune disease because I learned that I had the genetic marker for it. Anyway, so I go to the emergency room, I get diagnosed with type 1. I know like I don't know anything about blood sugar. Like you just
Yeah.
don't know anything. It's not if it's not part of your world, why do you need to know about it, right? Like
Right.
same with celiac disease. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't need to know about it, why would you care to read a label? Why would you care, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a really hard learning curve, but something I really that was really helpful for me is I had a diabetes educator come into my room when I was admitted to the hospital.
Mm.
And I ended up being in the hospital for 3 days because my blood sugar, it was just so hard for them to get my blood sugar down.
Mm.
Um, and the educator came in and it was so helpful for me, even though at that time everything he said went over my head. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you mean by tracking. Like, oh, it was just so much like counting your carbs and your carb to insulin ratio. Like, all of that stuff was just like over my head. I can barely even grasp the fact that you just gave me this diagnosis. Um, and I really appreciated that my diabetes educator had type 1 themselves.
Mm.
That was like really, really, like helpful for me because when I later was like, okay, I'm getting the hang of it, I was able to reach out to my educator and I understood the lingo because they knew the lingo. They knew what it was like to have type 1.
Right.
And I remember thinking at that time, this was in 2021 that I was diagnosed. And I remember thinking at that time, why isn't this happening with celiac disease? I'm tying this back to celiac real quick. I just was like,
Always.
why is a
Mm-hmm.
celiac educator who actually has celiac disease having consultations with a newly diagnosed celiac? I'm like,
Right.
yes, someone diagnosed with celiac disease may have an appointment with a dietitian, but unless that dietitian lives with celiac themselves, they don't know the ins and outs of it,
Right.
like the nuanced, detailed things that you have to know and understand.
Right.
And so at that time, I was like, one, just trying to figure out how to stay alive. That was really hard. But then I also had the idea to start my consulting business because I'm like, people need to have an educator for celiac disease who lives with celiac disease. Just like how my
Okay.
type 1 educator
Yep.
had type 1. They understood. They were able to explain things to me in a way that they understood because they lived with it themselves. Anyway, that's just a side story of
Yeah.
my life. But that was kind of like the eye-opening thing of like, man, the education is so
Yeah.
behind in the celiac world. Um, but anyway, so they tell me, take this amount of long-acting insulin,
Mm-hmm.
take this amount of short-acting insulin, and I am near death 4 times a day. I I am not joking you,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
insulin was killing me. Like, I was dying. And I'm kind of just going like, "Well, okay, well, if I have questions and I can't reach my doctor, I'll just call my brother and ask him what he would dose for this." My
Right.
brother, who's 100% insulin dependent, his
Right.
pancreas doesn't work at all, nothing. He's had diabetes. He had diabetes for 8 years at that point. Like, he was in a just completely different phase than me. So he would
Right.
tell me, "Okay, oh, if you're eating this, like, this is how much insulin I would give." So I would give that. I would crash.
Right.
I'd be in the 40s, 30s. I'd be like multiple times a day. And I'm like, I don't need this much insulin. And it took me months to figure out that I don't need that much insulin. Um, and so then I kind of told myself like I'm gonna like wean myself off the amount that they're telling me to take.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, at this point, I'm like, well, I'm just gonna listen to the doctor and they know what to do. Um, and so I'm giving myself way too much insulin. And then I later learned that my pancreas is still working to a degree. And so I would eat and I would give insulin, but then my pancreas would also give insulin. So now I'm
Yeah.
having double the amount of insulin that I needed.
Okay. Yeah.
And that is what led me to talk to my doctor and say, "Hey, something's wrong." I'm like, "I don't think," this is what I said to her, "I don't think I have diabetes." And she's like, "Oh, okay. Tell me more." And
Yeah.
I'm like, "I don't need to take like this much insulin. Like you're telling me to take this much, and if I take that, I am like I'm treating 4 or 5 lows a day." Which just is exhausting
Oh
to
yeah,
your
it is.
body.
Yeah.
To bounce back from those lows is so hard, and I'm a young mom, my kids are young, I'm like,
Right.
I am barely hanging on here. Um, anyway, she was like I was just like, "I just don't feel like I need this much insulin," and she goes, "Okay, let's change your needs." So we changed my needs, and still, I'm still trying to figure out what the correct dosage is for me, but I don't know about you, but after my diagnosis, I was just like roller coaster blood sugar, and I don't know if my body just went into survival mode, but in the first year of my diagnosis, I put on over 20 pounds.
Mm.
It was like I could not manage my weight. I couldn't exercise at the gym because I was having lows at the gym. I just was like I look back at pictures of myself right after my diagnosis and I'm like, who is that woman? I don't
Mm.
even recognize her. Like I put on so much weight and I couldn't get it off because I just couldn't manage my blood sugar.
Right.
So that was like over two years of just like roller coaster, not
Yeah.
well, not like barely like just like barely functioning. And then this app doesn't exist anymore, which is so sad, but it was an app called Honey Health, and it's a diabetes education app. And a friend of mine, my friend Sammy, she's a content creator on Instagram who has type 1 as well, and she texted me and she said, "Hey, you should join this app.
Mm.
It would really help you. Like there are people on there that like are similar to you." So I get on the app, and from that app I learned about GLP-1s.
Mm.
um and there was an endocrinologist on there who was giving her patients who were newly diagnosed GLP-1s to try to help elongate the life of their pancreas. And I was like, I feel like I fit this category. Like, I
Mm.
feel like so over the course of now, it's been 4 years since my diagnosis. I get my blood work done annually. I'm getting my pancreas checked. I'm seeing what my C peptide levels are.
Yeah.
And from the time I was diagnosed until even today, the function of my pancreas has stayed the exact same. So my pancreas cells are not dying yet still.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
from what I can tell and from what my doctor can tell, my pancreas works at about 60 to 70%. So I'm not insulin dependent. I don't need as much insulin as a quote unquote normal type 1 diabetic. So that's kind of like where this type 1.5
Yeah.
diagnosis comes in, which you've also received that diagnosis,
Yep.
where it's adult onset diabetes. Your pancreas it hasn't gone kaput yet. So it's still
Yeah.
working to a degree. So you kind of have to figure out, okay, how can I help my pancreas basically live as long as possible? And this is where I did a ton of research on GLP-1s and peptides. And I ended up meeting with this doctor and told her, like, I'm not a what's the word? Pediatric. I'm not a pediatric patient. I'm in my mid 30s. But I'm like, I don't require a ton of insulin. Like I really don't require a lot. So I had a chat with her and she said, you should talk to your endo. I talked to my endo and my endo was like, there's been like more and more research is starting to come up about GLP-1, specifically Ozempic. She's like, we have enough studies with type 2 diabetics. I have so many patients that have type 2 diabetes that have been using Ozempic for decades,
Mm-hmm.
and it's proven to be very helpful in blood sugar management. And I said, well, can I try it? And she was like, let's do it. Like, let's see what happens because,
Yeah.
you're just this very unique case. So 2 years ago, I started on a GLP-1, and long story short, it's completely changed my life.
Okay.
I've been able to wean myself off of long and short acting insulin.
Okay.
And I only take a GLP-1 as my form of type 1 diabetes management, and it controls my blood sugar for me. And I've lowered my A1C. It's been
Wow.
amazing. So that's kind of I mean, it was a long version, but
Yeah.
that's kind of where I've gone from diagnosis to now.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to respond to in that, but I feel like I'm even taking notes for myself. Like I'm going to ask my doctor because no one has spoken to me about how much of my pancreas is working, and
Mm,
I relate. I'll start backwards and go from your story of the weight. When they told me it was type 2, I lost 10 pounds in a snap because I
really?
couldn't absorb my food. It was the metformin was just making it was going through one end and not the other, not to be too gross, but
Oh,
it is a celiac podcast, so here we are.
yeah.
Yeah. So I dropped weight really quick, and then once I started using the insulin, I gained all the weight that I lost back
Mm,
and then some. And so I'm on that roller coaster, and so maybe I'm gonna now talk to my endo. I think I meet with them in a couple weeks, like right before I go for some celiac cruises. So
oh,
maybe
fun.
I should talk about that. But yeah, I've been working out more. I'm doing portion control, and it's not affecting my weight at all. So this is,
Mm.
again, you're just changing my life over and over again.
I know
Another,
it's a really unique
yeah,
topic and it's
yeah,
new. It's
yeah,
definitely the thing is the medication isn't new. The medication is proven to be helpful with blood
right,
sugar management. So why not let type 1 diabetics have access to this? Because we also need help with that. We're
right,
not the exact same as a type 2 diabetic, but we're working with the pancreas here. That's what we're
yeah,
working with. And the amount of help that it's given my pancreas to produce insulin for me and to manage my blood sugar for me has been
yeah.
nothing, like nothing I can even explain. Like I feel like my type 1 diabetes affects 0.5% of my life, whereas
That's
2
incredible.
years ago it was 95% of my day was affected by my diabetes.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm probably around, like, let's say 80% of my day is affected by type
Mhm.
1 still, where I have to take short acting and long acting still. I tried using the Omnipods, and those have just been astronomically expensive.
Oh, shoot.
That's been the other horrible part of this diagnosis is like money is just being thrown away. Like, I
Oh,
might as
yeah.
well not even work because it's all just going into my account and straight out of
Does
it.
the Omnipod, like, it's not covered by insurance or what?
No. And when I freelance, so I'm through Marketplace, and
Shoot.
they're like, they told me at first that it was, and then turned out it wasn't. So that's another game, but that's a whole other, oh, we could
Yeah,
spend hours talking
insurance.
about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also relate to, I'm not having as high of highs anymore, but now I'm dealing with lows, whether it's Omnipod or because I can't figure out, like, I'm now starting to get better at like the gut instinct. But I think to your point about when they're educating you, especially as an adult, all my friends that have type 1, which are still only a few, they were diagnosed as kids. So me
Right.
asking them for their advice, they're like, I don't know, I just know what to do.
Mhm.
And I went to film school. So when I'm given a math equation, I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Carb ratio to insulin, I'm like, I cannot do that in my head. Like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. And so I would spend like 10 minutes at dinner with people being like, hold on a second. I have to do
Yes.
solve for X right now. This is,
Yes.
and I thought I'd be done with that. So yeah, that exciting. That's very exciting. And also, the last thing I'll say about your story is there is something to the COVID vaccine in relation to your diagnosis of the exhaustion that you could have chalked that up to the vaccine of like COVID. A big symptom of getting the vaccine is just
Mhm.
being exhausted. So if it didn't trigger it, at least it did. I can understand why it
Yeah.
confused things because that's, oh, and the thirstiness I remember. And then I'm going to stop talking about me and bring this back
No,
to you.
keep
But I'm
going.
just so excited to talk to somebody that gets it. But the thirstiness
Yeah.
as well was out of control for me. And that, like, I remember my mom we both went on the Bahamas celiac cruise together, and she was in her casita, like, having her fun, and she came back down to see where I was, and I was like, hey, could you just bring me down some water? And she brought me like a big water bottle, and it was gone in a millisecond. Like, she
You're like,
was,
I
and
need 5
that's,
more.
yeah, she was like, I think that you need to go back to your doctor and ask some more questions. And
Ugh.
when they saw my results and saw this is also important in your story too, and that's what made me go back to my doctor. Type 1s also have high blood sugars. Like it's not
Yeah.
just low. And that would have been so helpful for, I wish I got such an attitude from the nurse that gave me my diagnosis when she told me it was type 2, because she was like, your numbers are high, why would you even ask and clarify? It's obviously type 2. And your story made me realize, no, that's not true. You can have highs as a type 1. In fact, a lot
Yes.
of them.
I'm like, highs are what we're constantly dealing with is
Yeah.
high blood sugars. That's crazy that she said that, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of people that do get in adulthood, I would say.
Yeah.
In adulthood, it's not as common to get diagnosed with type 1, so they get
Right.
diagnosed with type 2 and then
Yep.
they're like, well, this doesn't quite fit the mold. And
Right.
then, that's where your story is really unique because you were misdiagnosed and then your
Right.
diagnosis changed. And I would
Yeah.
say my story is like I was diagnosed with type 1 and then my diagnosis was changed a few months later to type 1.5,
Yeah.
which is a little bit different. So
Yeah.
it's hard because when you're diagnosed in adulthood, you can't relate to. I don't treat my diabetes the same way my nephew, who's, eh, you know, 8
Right.
years old, and you're like my cousin's child who's 2 years old treating their diabetes. It's just, and I don't manage mine the same way you or the next person or the next person.
Right.
It's
Right.
like it's very different in like you can't just follow. There's not just one mold that fits for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. So again, I'm glad that we're talking about this and like at length. And I think our story is also unique in that I think you mentioned this before of the mental weight of what it means to have celiac on its own. And then I was talking with my partner, he was talking with his mom about the celiac diagnosis and then the type 1 on top of it, because my partner also has celiac disease. And there,
Really?
yeah, and he's like, I think I can't even imagine having to think about type 1 on top of it. And you're a mom, so you have another layer that I will never have. So you're my personal hero in a
Oh,
way that I can't even describe.
thank
But
you.
how do you, so I'm sure there's a difference in how you look at going out and doing your daily routine, but then I've been listening to your podcasts like I do every week. And you, by the way, everybody should go listen because you have the world's most soothing voice. So
Oh
if
my
for nothing
gosh, thank
else,
you.
if you ever need an ego boost, like I'm here for you. So
Oh, I'm like loving it. I'm like, wow, I feel like a million bucks right now.
but when you're going and traveling, how are you dealing with the celiac and then also considering your type 1 on top of it? Asking for a friend and the friend is
Lots of
me.
prep, lots of
Yeah.
being prepared, lots of backups. Like it took me a while to learn that I needed to bring like two of everything and even
Mm,
sometimes three of everything when it comes to diabetes. Like when you're traveling with celiac disease, you're like, okay, I know I have to have snacks for the plane. I know I have to have backup stuff. Like I know I need to do all of my prep work beforehand so that I'm not scrambling when I get on the trip. Like there's a lot of work that you have to do beforehand, but like there were countless trips that we took that first year or two of my diagnosis that like my sensor failed like 4 days into the trip and I
oh
didn't bring a
no.
Dexcom because I was like, this Dexcom's going to last 12 days or it's going to last 14 days,
Right.
whatever. So I didn't bring anything. Like we went on a trip to Sun Valley, Idaho, and my sensor failed and I didn't bring my meter. Like I literally just like hoped and I guess I just didn't think about it because it wasn't something that I was in the habit of right after my diagnosis with that trip. I was like, okay, I just put on a brand new sensor. I'm going on a trip out of state. And
Yeah.
my sensor failed, didn't bring my meter, and now I'm like, what's my blood sugar? I have no idea what my blood sugar's at. And when you're on vacation, you tend to eat more than you would in your day to day. And so on vacation, I kind of go into vacation mode where you're like, calories don't count. I'm just going to
Yeah.
enjoy everything,
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I have to have a CGM on. Like, I'm panicked that I don't have a
Yeah.
CGM on. And I went to a pharmacy and they were like, we can't give you a prescription. Like, you don't live in this state. Like, your insurance doesn't cover. And I'm like, okay, well, how much would it be out of pocket? And it was like $195 for a CGM. And I'm
Oh.
like, this was like, no, it was like over $300
I was
for a
gonna
CGM.
say.
Yeah. It was like over $300 for a CGM with no insurance out of state.
Okay.
And my husband's like, I'm sorry, but like we can't do that. And he's like, well, would it be better to just like buy a finger pricker meter? And I'm like, maybe we should just do that. And then I can just finger prick, every couple hours.
Yeah.
But I mean, I learned my lesson from that trip that like, okay, I have to bring extra Dexcoms. I have to bring my finger pricker. I have to bring extra needles in case one bends or gets damaged. Or like there was just like things that weren't part of my regular preparation, which believe me, I was already doing a ton of preparation for trips with celiac disease. And now it's like, okay, now you have to have a whole diabetes bag. You have to have snacks for lows. You have to have a juice box for lows. You have to, there's just like one of the things that I really hated when I was first diagnosed was how much candy I was eating, because I'm not one to like eat candy or like junk food, because I'm very cautious of like food dyes and artificial crap, and like I try to eat like healthy in general. But then I get diagnosed with type 1 and I'm like, low, need Swedish fish, low, need Skittles, and I was just like, I always was having candy. And I'm like, I hate this. I don't want to be eating this much candy. Like, this isn't good for me, even though like this is what's going to make me live, is this freaking Swedish fish, or like, And I told my husband, I'm like, I'm getting so annoyed with how much candy I'm eating. Like, that's probably one of the reasons I would put on 20 pounds in that first year.
Right.
But like, that's a frustrating part too, is like, you have to treat a low. You need something to treat a low. And my preference is a juice box. That's my preference.
Okay.
But there's another layer there with type 1, that if you need something to treat a low and you're out and about, you have to have a gluten-free snack. You have to have something gluten-free in order, like I have a girlfriend that works out at my gym, and we both have type 1, and so we've become friends because of this. And it was a couple of years ago, I was low at the gym, and I like went to her and I'm like, hey, I'm low. My stuff's in my car. I'm parked in the back of the parking lot. Do you have anything in your purse? And she pulls out her purse and she just has the Airhead sour strips, which have wheat in them. And I'm like, I can't have those. I can't have that. Like, it's not like I can just eat anything. I can't. It still has to be gluten-free, even if it's going to like, I need to save my life here. I still have to make sure I'm eating gluten-free. And then she had like a Chobani yogurt, and I'm lactose intolerant. And I'm like, can't have that either. I'm like, I can't have that. So, there's a lot of layers when it comes to being prepared with both things. And it's always best to over prepare and assume the worst and plan for the worst, because then you're never stuck in like a pickle. I've been in many pickles.
Yeah. Preach it, girl. So as if you don't have enough on your plate, I know that there's been celiac cruises. I heard your episode with Maureen, and they've been doing that for the past couple of years. But you're doing a version of that, but on land. In Costa
on land.
Rica. Yes. Can you please tell me about this Costa Rica trip, because that is now on my bucket list.
Yes.
Where I have to figure out how to scrape pennies to go one of the times. Hopefully, you keep doing it.
Yes. Well, this is our first time, so we're really hoping for success. And if it's successful, then Courtney and I will keep doing it. So I'm hosting a gluten-free retreat in Costa Rica, and there's a company that is a travel company called Into the Wild Adventure. And the woman who owns this company, she does like women's retreats. She does couples retreats. She does all, like, her husband will do all men's retreats. Anyway, she's been doing it for years. And a friend of mine, Courtney, who is also a content creator, her account is called Simple Celiac Life. She's great. We're both local here to Utah. She went on one of these Into the Wild Adventure retreats, and it was the host who owns the business. It was her first ever gluten-free retreat. And she was like, this sounds so fun. So Courtney got approached to be the host of that retreat. So she did it in Italy, and she had a good experience, learned a lot. And then the lady said, this was super successful to do the celiac retreat. Would you want to host another one? And she said, yes, but I would need a co-host. Like, I couldn't manage that many people by myself. When she did it, she hosted, and it was like 15 women. And she was like, it was a lot. Like, it was so hard to manage all those people. So she's like, so she approached me about co-hosting a trip. And so we signed up to be hosts for Into the Wild Adventure, and we're doing a retreat in Costa Rica. And the really cool thing is the wellness retreat center that we're doing it at is 100% gluten-free. So not only do we not have to stress about finding food, the wellness center does everything for you, and it's a yoga retreat center.
Okay.
But our retreat specifically, because of where it's at, we wanted to make sure it was a blend of like relaxation, but also adventure. So we're
Yeah.
doing everything that's going to be done at the wellness center is going to be like relaxation, massages, yoga, like leisure hikes, stuff like that. And then we're also doing adventure stuff. We're hiking up to waterfalls. We're doing a bioluminescent boat tour. We're doing surfing lessons. We're doing all sorts of stuff. But the really fun thing is, that it's a women's retreat for celiac women. So it's really cool. Obviously, we haven't done it yet. It's coming up in
Yeah.
June, and I'm
Okay.
actually like right now packing and like getting all the swag bags organized because we've had so many awesome companies donate to the swag bags for the women, which I love our community because people are like, how can we help? How can we be involved? What can we do? And so we've got awesome companies donating for that. But yeah, the goal is that it's super successful and fun, and that Courtney and I will plan another one. So that's the
Oh,
goal.
so exciting. Yeah, I'm scraping the pennies. There's too much travel this year, so I couldn't. I was like about to go and say, I'm signing up. I'm going to be there. And then too many celiac cruises this year. So maybe I'm crossing my fingers and hoping by popular demand, mine, please, just for me, only do a retreat for me next year, too.
Well, I want it to be like a thing that we do, because when she had originally approached me, like she had said to me like, would you ever be interested in like hosting a gluten-free retreat? And I looked at her, I'm like, this is actually my dream. I'm like, this is my dream. This is like, I've told my husband for years. I'm like, I love to host get-togethers. I host things at
Mhm.
my house. I host things in my community. I host organized events here in Utah. But that's just, that's a small scale thing for me. I'm like, the goal is big scale. And so like when
Yeah.
she approached me with that, I'm like, you're making my dreams come true.
Oh, so exciting. And thank you for, on behalf of women with celiac, all of us, all around the world, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Um, do you mind? So, we're talking about something super positive, and I do want to keep things as positive as possible, but I feel like there's a lot of lessons learned in getting glutened or, being in a place that doesn't have options available to you. And I listened to your Puerto Vallarta episode, and people can go and listen to that episode and hear the full story, but I'm curious of what were your main lessons and takeaways from that trip that you feel are good to share with everybody.
Well, everyone's gonna listen and be like, she's an idiot. But
No.
so this trip specifically was organized and planned by somebody that wasn't me. So I didn't like, I'm normally in control of planning trips and like
Right.
knowing what's going to happen and when we arrive, everything. Like, no, my brother-in-law booked an entire family trip for all of us to go to Puerto Vallarta. He booked all the hotels, he booked the flights.
Yeah.
I mean, he did everything. So it was kind of like I wasn't that much in control. I didn't get to choose the resort, nothing like that. So I
Right.
was kind of going in, going, okay, if anything else, I can eat fruits and vegetables this week. Like I really didn't have, um, I wasn't super hopeful, but I also was like, "Ah, this is a family vacation for my husband's side of the family. I'm obviously not going to miss it. And I just need to like kind of roll with the punches here, which that's not my personality to like roll with the punches when it comes to celiac. Like I really like to be in control and I like to have
Yeah.
plan and I like to have a backup plan and all of that. Um, so one, I could have done more to be prepared. That is a lesson that I learned. Um, but when we arrived, we did half of the time in an Airbnb shared with the family, half at an all inclusive resort. The Airbnb was much harder because everyone wanted to
Mm.
just go out to eat every single night.
Yeah.
And I do feel lucky because I had like my husband's family is all Hispanic. So they all speak Spanish. So like I did have people to advocate for me, but I also didn't know what they were saying. So I'm like,
Right.
I'm telling my brother-in-law, hey, I need you to tell him this and this and this and this. And like hoping that he's portraying the seriousness of my needs,
Right.
right? Um, but then there's also the like you don't get the confirmation from your host, from your waiter, from the kitchen staff because they don't speak your language. So there was the challenge of the language barrier. There were
Mm.
some restaurants that we ate at that I found on Find Me Gluten Free, um, which was helpful. And I did find a gluten free bakery once we went to the resort, there was a bakery that I
Okay.
ended up taking an Uber to, and I ended up ordering a handful of things to try to help me get by.
Yep.
Um, so my biggest mistake, one, the Airbnb was really hard because we didn't have a car. We got to the Airbnb and none of us had a car, and it was like on a steep hill. So like to get up to the Airbnb, we're walking up like this intense incline. So the
Great for
thought of like, okay,
diabetes
we
too.
have to leave to
Yeah.
go get, like, I would have to leave in the morning to like go to a market in hopes to like find a lactose-free yogurt, to find a banana or an apple or like something. It was hard to find food. Um, and then, I would go to the restaurants and I'm like, okay, well, I know that I can have refried beans and eggs. Like, I know I can have that. But you get to a point where you're like, I've eaten refried beans and eggs every morning for 7 days. And you're just like, I don't want to eat that. I want to eat what everyone else is eating. And it just
Mm-hmm.
sucks, like that
Right.
aspect of it just sucks. So lesson learned, I could have been more prepared with like snacks that I brought. And I did bring snacks, but like I flew through them pretty fast. Like by day 3, they were gone. So like I just wasn't prepared enough.
Right.
Because I was hopeful that I'd be able to eat some things or like find some things. And I mean, yeah, on
Right.
the beach, like I was able to have like a mango that they cut up for me. And like there was a hotel resort that had chips and guac, and like the chips were pre-packaged. They weren't fried in a fryer. So like there were a handful of things, but it's like after you've eaten the same thing so many times, you just kind of feel like I need to go cry. Like I need to just go cry because
Yeah.
I'm so jealous of what everybody else gets to eat. But then you also don't want to seem ungrateful and you don't want to seem like high maintenance. It's such a hard thing to manage where you're like, I
Yeah.
actually need to have a mental breakdown, but I also don't want to be a brat. So it's so hard when you're with family. I'm like, if it was just me and my husband, like I would have broken down many times. But I'm like,
Yeah.
it is my whole extended family. So it was just the dynamic wasn't ideal. There were a handful of times that like we had a successful dinner night. And another lesson learned, which I should have known this, but I didn't because I'd never done an all-inclusive resort before, is like when I got there, I should have like gone to the concierge and been like, what do you know about gluten-free? Which I did say, do you guys have gluten-free options on this resort? And they said, we have a little flyer that we'll give you and you give it to the restaurant staff. That was
Okay.
all I was told. But I wasn't told where all the restaurants were on the property. I wasn't told like what all the options were. I feel like I could have done a little bit more to like, because it wasn't until like the 6th night of our 8-day trip that I found a restaurant on the resort it was a child-free restaurant. We weren't allowed to take our children. So like we asked my mother-in-law to watch our kids on that night so that we could go to this restaurant, and it was like the best meal I had on the trip. And I'm like, wish I
Mm.
could have eaten here every single night, but I couldn't. Like we
Right.
have our kids on this trip. So
Right.
there were a lot of hard things about it, but like after the episode aired, my husband was like, you made it sound like a really, really bad trip. And I'm like, for me, the
Yeah.
food was hard, but I'm like, the trip in general was amazing. Cousins got to be together, and
Right.
we did amazing adventures, and we released baby turtles, and like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
There were
Oh.
all these really fun things, but like still like nobody else understands what it is like for me to not be able to enjoy this at the same capacity as everyone else. And I'm
Yeah.
like, unless you walk a day in my shoes, you don't understand why this trip was hard for me. I'm like, yeah, my husband could see that it was hard for me, but he was like, I feel like we did everything that we could to make it easy for you. And I'm like, yeah, but that still doesn't take away like the jealousy, like the emotional
Mm.
aspect of it, the like frustration of it. So it was a great trip with family. It was
Yeah.
a successful trip with family, but it was hard for me. And I did get glutened on the second night, and I was literally up vomiting and having diarrhea on the second night of the trip. And so
Oh.
then I'm like, the rest of the trip, I'm just kind of recovering from exhaustion, just from like being fatigued and feeling so like beat after you've
Yeah.
gotten glutened. And then on the 5th day, we went snorkeling and I got stung by a jellyfish. So it was like, just like, when I encompassed that trip in my mind, it was just like, oh, that was rough. Like that was
Yeah.
rough. But I can pinpoint several times that it was fun and it was great and we made memories, but it was overall really hard in general. So after experiencing that, I'm like, okay, over preparation, more snacks, more everything, like more communication. Like there's just like there was a lot more that I could have done that I didn't do, and lesson learned, right?
Yeah. I mean, also though, how much you have going on in your head of like, it's not just going on vacation for you, it's making sure that your children are taken care of. It's
Yeah.
making sure, I'm sure your husband is wonderful, but I'm knowing what I do about you, I'm sure you're also making sure that he's taken care of. And
Yeah.
then there's also your celiac disease. And then on top of all of that, it's type 1 stuff as well. So it's not
Mhm.
on top of all of your intolerances that you have in addition to all the other things. So I feel like going on vacation isn't actually vacation. It's just like a lot more mental work because then you're out of your routine.
Yeah.
And so, if that relieves anything off your plate, because I have had family members tell me, well, you're being ungrateful and you're being a brat. And I have a luxury that you don't have where I now just travel by myself most of the time because I'm like,
Yeah.
great, if you can't understand my needs, then I will just go on my own.
Yeah.
But again, like, I don't think that it is being a brat. I think it's saying or being ungrateful because you are so, so grateful, but it is such a mental toll of just even
Yeah.
being out of your routine from the beginning. And then it's an uphill climb no matter what when you have celiac and you're on vacation.
Yes.
So thank
That
you
I was
again.
just thinking of, like, when we went snorkeling on that trip, and so that I'm treading water. I mean, I have a life jacket on,
Yeah.
but I'm, like, treading water for, like, over an hour, which lowered my blood sugar
Yeah,
significantly,
I'm
right?
sure.
So
Yeah.
my blood sugar is, like, low, and I'm like, "I need to get back on the boat." Like, I had, like, a fruit leather in on the boat, and I was like, "I gotta get back on the boat." I'm like, "I'm getting low to the point where I gotta treat this." And the, like, company that we went through to book the snorkeling thing, like, they packed lunches for everybody, and it was just deli sandwiches. So, like,
Yeah.
I didn't get to eat that, right? And
Yeah.
they did bring bananas, and so I'm like, "Okay." I had a fruit leather and a banana, and that's what I had on the thing, but, like, everybody else got to have a deli sandwich. So, like,
Yeah.
that's kind of like
Yeah.
another, like, example of how different it is for me. And then, I got pretty seasick after getting stung by the jellyfish. I was seasick on the boat while I was treating my low, and I was like, "I don't wanna go to the next location. Can you just drop us off at the beach? And, like, can you come back and pick us up?" Like, I just didn't
Yeah.
feel well. So they dropped us off at the beach, and the beach had a resort on it that they came and they're like, "We can take your order. We can order food for you." And of course, I asked them if their fries are in a dedicated fryer, and they're not. So I couldn't have fries, but I'm, like, looking for a carb. Like, I need a carb,
Mhm.
actually. Like, I'm not I got my blood sugar up a little bit, but, like, sometimes you're like,
Yeah.
"Ugh, I need food, I need nourishment."
Yeah.
And they didn't have anything, so, like, I just ended up ordering a mojito, and I'm like, "I just need sugar." Like, like, I'm over here, like, I need carbs, and it's just
Being
when I
hangry
it
and
yes,
tired.
yes, I'm
Yeah.
hangry, I'm tired, I just got stung by a jellyfish, like, it's
Yeah.
not good. It was
Oh,
it was hard, it was a hard trip, and
yeah.
I had a lot of people message me and be like, "I had a great time in Puerto Vallarta," and I'm like, "I'm not saying everyone's gonna have a hard time." I'm like, "This
Yeah.
was my experience, I'm gonna share it," and,
Yeah.
um the resort was okay, and I've seen other people post about better resorts, but, like,
Mm,
again, I didn't get to choose the resort. So
yeah.
the dynamic was a little bit different than what my typical travels are.
Yeah. And I think that's what's going to make this Costa Rica experience so much better of like someone that has been through the ringer on
Yeah.
travels and has learned experiences the hard way a couple of times over. And you're going to make sure that no one, like, you're going to go out of your way to make sure that no one else has that experience, which is another
Yeah.
reason of you're a trustworthy face out there. So when you're posting about organizing a trip, I'm like, yes, I'm ready to go. Like,
Aw,
whatever.
thank you.
So
Thank you.
I have all the faith that it's going to be successful. But you also organize a food truck event in Utah, which is also
Yes!
on my bucket list.
I
Uh,
know, I wish all my gluten-free friends could come. I'm like,
yeah.
"Everyone come," but I'm like, to come for just, like, an evening, doesn't make
Yeah.
sense, but
Yeah.
make a weekend out of it, come to Utah. Yes, so this will be my 3rd year hosting a 100% gluten-free food truck roundup. I got the idea, obviously, because you go to any festival and there's food trucks and you can't eat anything.
Yep.
And, one of my favorite restaurants in Utah first started as a food truck, and it's called Chicken Boy. They were a fried chicken food truck, and after they ran their food truck for not even a year, they were able to open a brick and mortar. And so I was like, I mean, people would come and wait at that chicken food truck for hours. Like
Yeah.
people would come from all over the greater Salt Lake area, and they would come to get fried chicken because that's not a luxury we get to have very often.
Yeah.
And so there were a handful of vendors that, like, I would look at, like, farmers markets or other food truck roundups, and I'm like, well, they look like they have a gluten-free option, but is it celiac safe? Like,
Right.
you got to ask all these questions. And I kind of gathered this list of food truck vendors that were like, we can make celiac safe food, like we can do that, but we, like, also have other food in our food trucks, which eventually led me to be like, would you be willing to, like, prepare your truck and do a dedicated gluten-free night? And they were like, yeah, totally. So my first year I was hoping for, like, 500 people to come, and we had like 2,500 people come. It was insane. Every food truck
Yeah.
vendor sold out, and they were like, you should do this again. Like, we sold out. Like, this was great for us. Like, we loved it.
Yeah.
And the community was like, you need more food trucks. Like, you need more parking. You need more. And I'm like, girls, this was my first time. I'm like, this is my
Yeah.
first time trying to do it. And I did it last year, and I found a bigger park, and I got more vendors, and it was super successful. So I'm doing it again this year for celiac disease awareness. And we have 16 food trucks. Half of those food trucks are dedicated gluten-free food trucks. And then the other half of them are like, we understand celiac disease. We will clean, we will prep. And I've done a lot of educating in the past couple of years with the different trucks that are coming, as far as, like, here is what is necessary to basically qualify to serve all these people. And I have to work with, like, the health department, with the county, and, like, it's a big event, and it's coming up here on May 23rd, and third annual, and it's going to be awesome.
I'm so, again, like, next year is gonna be Lorin events year for me. Like, I'm just gonna make sure I put money aside for
remind
all of
me
that.
remind me where you live.
I'm in North Carolina.
Oh, my sister lives there. She lives in
There we
North
go.
Carolina. Yes, I
We'll
want to
have to
come and
do,
visit.
yeah, we'll have to do a North Carolina event somehow and figure out
Yeah.
how to make that work. Because I've been getting all these messages from folks, and people do reference you and reaching out to me. And they're like, why can't you do what Lauren's doing? I'm like, because there's one Lorin for a reason.
No, it is possible. It is totally
Yeah.
possible for other people to do this. It is a lot of work. I will not
Yeah.
lie. It's a lot of work. Um, but you don't have to make any food. You just have to rile everybody up. You got to have a
Yep.
community, and you got to ask, and you got to, there's a lot of hours that go into it for sure.
Yeah.
But when people come together, and, like, last year, like, I wept multiple times
Mm.
just because of the amount of people that were like, thank you for doing this. Like, or like people, last year I had people drive up from Las Vegas to come to it. And, like, Las Vegas is like 5 hours away from here. There were
Yeah.
people that would, like, they were coming from all over, and they were like, this is such a rare treat. Like, we wanted to be here. And I feel
Ugh.
bad because this year it lands over Memorial Day weekend. And so I
Mhm.
know a lot of people will miss it this year, but I'm like, I'm sorry. That's what works for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and you know what? They could make a Memorial Day weekend. That's their Memorial Day weekend trip, and it's
Yeah.
worthwhile. So that's amazing. Somehow we're already an hour into our conversation, and I feel, I don't know. We have to, like, have a friend time off camera and
Off
off.
camera. And we
Yeah.
can chat.
Yeah, because I feel like I could talk to you for hours and commiserate, but I'm gonna close this out the same way I closed out the first one. Some of the questions are the same, and I'm curious to see if your answers are the same. But one more question that I have before I go into that rapid fire. In the last episode, you talked about how your home is 100% gluten free. My understanding is you may have evolved from that. And do you mind just talking through the process of what that all is for you, if you're comfortable with that?
Yeah, yeah. I would say I've gone from 100% gluten free to 99.99999% gluten free, meaning, like, here's an example. We just bought a new house, and we just moved in a week
Congratulations.
ago. Thank you. And, like, our realtor delivered crumble cookies to our house as, like, a congratulations. Um so, I bring the crumble, we set it on the kitchen counter, we open it up, and my kids are like, "Let us have cookies." They can have a cookie if they sit at the counter and I watch them eat it, and then I watch them wash their hands, and then I clean it up. Like,
Yeah.
if if I can be control of it, but I'm not going to say, here you go, bye. And
Yeah.
then who knows where they went with that cookie and where the
Right.
crumbs are. No, we have rules when it comes to if there's gluten in the house, like you have to sit down, you have to stay sitting and you have to eat. And then you get up, you wash your hands and mom will clean up. Like
Yep.
I don't trust my kids enough to like trust them with gluten yet. And like my husband, like if he like, he's coming late home from work and he grabs something to pick up, like he can eat at the counter and he can clean up after himself and wash his hands.
Right.
Like he knows what to do. So those are the rare circumstances
Okay.
that I will allow it, but it is under my direct supervision.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so thankful that because my home is 100% gluten free and I have allowed a new person into my life. And I'm so glad that he also has celiac because then I don't
Yeah,
have to
that's
like
actually so nice.
compromise because I would not have. It would have been like,
Yeah.
you're gluten free now.
Yeah.
All right, now on to the fun rapid fire questions. And then I know we have to give out a discount code for your merch for the month of
Yes.
May. So exciting. So, my first question is this is the gluten free advocate now. So, when do you find yourself needing to advocate for yourself the most?
Oh, gosh. Um my first instinct is to say restaurants, but
Mm,
I stick to the same restaurants. Like
right.
we've got a list of 8 to 10 restaurants that we trust, we love, we
I love
keep
that.
going back to.
Yeah.
So I don't have to do as much advocating, but like I would say with my
Yeah.
family is the most.
That's
Yeah.
my
I don't
answer too.
remember what I answered last time. I'm curious if
So we didn't ask that question last time. That's a
Oh,
new
okay.
one.
Okay.
So next year when you come back, we'll see what the difference is
We'll
on
see
that
if it's
one.
changed. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one you have answered before. So what is your favorite city for food?
Ooh. And now I'm like, okay, don't tell me what I answered because
I
I don't
won't.
remember.
I won't.
Um, I want to say New York City.
Okay.
What did
You
I say
said
last time?
you said Rome.
Ooh, okay. I
Very
think
bougie.
yes. I'm like, I almost said Rome again this time because I did have an amazing time in Rome. But New
Yeah.
York City is just easy. Like it's an
Yeah,
easy place to eat gluten free. Yeah.
it is. I'm going next weekend and I'm very excited for all
I'm
the
going in
restaurants.
October and I can't wait. Oh,
Oh,
I
so
just watched The
exciting.
Devil Wears Prada last night and there were like scenes of New York and I'm like, I can't wait to go back.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
so
so
excited.
exciting. This is a new question. Where is your favorite city for exploring?
I really liked Seattle. I
Ooh,
I really
okay.
liked Seattle. I love the weather. I love the dreary, rainy.
Okay.
I like that. It's,
Nice.
don't get that. So I loved exploring Seattle.
That's a new one. Okay. It's on my list. I'll have to go someday. And then this is again the last question and the one that you've answered already. So city where you learned the most about yourself.
I would say New York too, just because
Okay.
when I traveled there, I traveled alone and I
Mm,
don't typically travel alone. Like my husband is kind of like the airport dad.
yep.
And he like takes care of everything. And so when I travel alone, I realize how capable I am that I'm like, I
Mm,
can do the public transportation. I can get the own Uber. I can find my hotel. I can find a restaurant. I can do all of
yeah.
this. And then you like realize I'm a big girl. I can do this.
Yeah. Oh, that's the magic of solo travel. I recommend it for everybody.
Yeah.
Uh, you said Venice last time.
Ooh, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well, that's a
Your
close second.
yeah, your Italy trip was at the forefront of your mind the last
Yes,
time we spoke.
yes,
All right. So please tell the people where they can find you. And I know that you have a special discount code for your merch the
yes,
month of May. So please share with everybody.
yes. So I am on Instagram and TikTok at Good Gluten Free Grub, and then I have a Instagram account for my podcast. My podcast is called the Good Gluten Free Grub Podcast, and the podcast Instagram is called Gluten Free Grub Podcast, I believe. It is very new, so I don't have it memorized. Yeah, Gluten Free Grub Podcast. And then I do have merch on my website, which is just goodglutenfreegrub.com. And for the month of May, I'm doing 25% off of your order on all items. And the code for that is GFF in all caps, standing for gluten free friend. So use the code GFF and get 25% off through the entire month of May.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming back. And you were like the first influencer that gave me the time of day. So thank you so much.
Well, don't ever hesitate to DM me, and that goes for all of you. Like, I do my DMs. I answer my DMs.
You
I will
do.
send you a voice message. I will talk to you. Don't ever feel like you're taking any of my time, because it's my passion to like help other people with celiac disease or type 1. So I am here for anyone.
Well, thank you so much. And I feel like I'm going to start just saying that you're a friend of mine. So thank you for being
Yes,
such
we're
a good friend.
friends.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Till next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me this week for an episode of The Gluten-Free Advocate. For more information on what's discussed on the podcast, check out the episode description and or my Substack, The Gluten-Free Advocate. If you have any questions or fun stories to share, feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Till next time. This episode is produced by Leigh Francis Productions.